I found the last note under my door at 3:17 a.m. The handwriting was shaky, smeared with something dark, and it read, "Don't trust the man in the mirror. He's not me anymore." I moved into my apartment during the off-season, when the building was half empty and blissfully quiet. It was a corner unit on the 6th floor top, floor one of only 3 on that level. 6A, 6B, and 6C. Mine was 6A. From the start, I noticed how isolated it felt. The hallway light outside my door flickered nonstop. The elevator always made a strange groaning sound before opening on my floor, like it hated coming up there. And 6B, the unit next to mine, was locked, dusty, and had a "no entry" under maintenance sticker on the knob that looked faded from sun and time. I asked the building manager about it during my second week, just out of curiosity. She said, "Oh, 6B? Been empty since last year. Nobody's renting that one for a while." So I stopped thinking about it, until I got the first note. It was a small, torn square of paper, lined notebook paper, slid under my door during the night. It said, "I hear you walking. Are you the new one?" Signed, 2B. Now here's the thing. There is no 2B in this building. The second floor is storage space and some maintenance rooms. The residential floors start at 3. I figured it was some prank. Maybe someone was trying to freak out the new tenant. But something about the handwriting, it was weirdly shaky, uneven, like someone writing in the dark. The paper even smelled faintly like old mildew. I tossed it. But 2 nights later, there was another one. "I'm sorry for watching you. I just don't know how long it's been. Can you knock on my door so I know I'm still here?" 2B. I won't lie, it freaked me out. I checked my hallway security camera footage, but the battery had died days earlier and I hadn't noticed. I knocked on 6B's door the next morning just to put it out of my mind. No answer. I pressed my ear to the door and heard nothing. No footsteps, no breathing. Just silence. Still, I slipped a note under their door. "There is no 2B. Who are you?" That night, I got a reply. There was a 2B. They changed the numbers after the fire. "You're in the wrong place." I didn't sleep. I called the building manager again. She swore no fire had ever happened here, no renumbering. But when I looked closely at my apartment door the next morning, I noticed something. Under this 6A plate, there were faint scorch marks, barely visible unless you were looking for them. I peeled the number off, just a little, and underneath it was a different number, etched into the door. 2B. That day, I went digging online. The building had a fire in 1997. One unit was affected. A man named Caleb Maris was the only one reported missing, presumed dead. He lived in 2B. After that, the floor numbers were changed. I tried to convince myself there was some rational explanation. Maybe a twisted prank by someone who knew the building's history. Maybe a neighbor messing with me. But things escalated fast. I started hearing footsteps in the hallway, slow, dragging. Always around 3 a.m. My door handle would twitch lightly, like someone testing it. Then came the breathing. Heavy, right outside my peephole. When I finally got the camera working again, it showed nothing. Not even shadows. Just empty hallway. The notes kept coming. I didn't mean to burn. I just fell asleep. "Can you tell them I'm sorry? He looks like me, but he's not me anymore. He's trying to come back. Check your mirror at 3:17. The last one did it. I waited, terrified, until 3:17 a.m., then stood in front of my bathroom mirror. At first, I saw nothing. Just myself, tired, pale, shaking. Then, my reflection smiled. I didn't. I swear to you. I stood completely still, but the reflection raised its hand, then pressed its palm to the glass. I ran. I stayed with a friend for 2 nights, then went back just to grab my things and break the lease. My door had one final note, stuck to it with a knife jammed into the wood. "Too late. You knocked. I don't live there anymore. I don't even live in the same city. But sometimes, around 3:17 a.m., I wake up and see movement in the mirror. And sometimes, I get the feeling someone's watching me walk around my apartment, from the other side of the glass." I only went into Mr. Crawford's basement to feed his cat. That's when I found the tunnel and realized why I'd been hearing footsteps in my closet for the past 6 months. When Mr. Crawford disappeared, the whole neighborhood acted shocked. But honestly, I wasn't surprised. The man had always been off. The way he'd stare at kids playing in the street, just a little too long. How he'd sometimes stand motionless in his backyard at night, face tilted up like he was sniffing the air. Still, when the police asked me to check on his tabby while they investigated, I agreed. The house smelled like wet newspaper and something faintly metallic. Mr. Crawford's keys jingled in my shaking hands as I made my way to the basement, where he'd always kept the cat's food. The basement light didn't work. My phone flashlight revealed sagging shelves, a broken treadmill, and at the far wall, a door. Not the exterior bulkhead. A second door, narrow and crooked, like it had been added later. It was slightly ajar. A cold draft slipped through the gap, carrying a scent that made my stomach clench, Old Spice and something sour. My dad's cologne, the same kind he'd worn before he left us 10 years ago. The cat food slipped from my hands as I pushed the door open. The tunnel was barely shoulder width, the dirt walls shored up with warped 2x4s. My light caught glints of something embedded in the earth. Broken CDs, a child's hair clip, a single pearl earring. And at the far end, another door. I knew before I even touched it. The same chipped white paint as my bedroom closet. The same sticky knob that always jiggled before opening. The tunnel led straight to my room. I stumbled back, suddenly remembering all those nights I'd woken to soft shuffling sounds in my closet. The times I'd found my things slightly moved. That one morning my window was open despite swearing I'd locked it. A floorboard creaked above me. The cat. It had to be the cat. Then I saw them, fresh shoe prints in the basement dust. Leading up the stairs. I ran. Not toward the tunnel, but up the basement steps, through Mr. Crawford's kitchen, and out into the blinding daylight. The police found nothing. No tunnel, no hidden door, just an old man's cluttered basement. They suggested the stress of finals had gotten to me. But that night, as I lay in bed staring at my closet door, I heard it again, that faint shuffling. And this time, something scratched slowly down the inside of the door. 3 long drags of splintering wood. Then silence. I moved out the next day. But sometimes, when I'm half asleep in my new apartment, I'll catch a whiff of Old Spice. And I can't help but wonder if Mr. Crawford really disappeared, or if he just found a new home. I thought my neighbor was just lonely, until I saw what she'd been doing with my phone. Every call she ever made was to me. Mrs. Langley moved into the house across the street 3 months ago. At first, she seemed harmless, just an elderly widow with too many cats and a habit of waving a little too eagerly whenever I stepped outside. Then the emergencies started. It was always something small. "Oh, dear, my landline's acting up. Could I borrow your phone to call my sister? Or my cell died, and I need to check on my prescription." Just one quick call. I didn't think much of it. She was old, alone. What harm could it do? But then I noticed the way she held my phone. Too close to her face, her knuckles whitening around it like she was afraid I'd snatch it back. And the way she'd always turn slightly away, as if shielding the screen. After the 5th time, I started making excuses. "Sorry, my battery's low. I'm expecting an important call." That's when the knocks began. Late at night, just soft enough to pretend I hadn't heard them. Once, at 3 a.m., I woke to the sound of my doorbell ringing. A single, hesitant ding-dong that sent my dog into a frenzy. By the time I got downstairs, no one was there. But on my porch, perfectly centered, was a single dead sparrow. I told myself it was a coincidence. Then, last Tuesday, she cornered me in the driveway. "Please," she whispered, her breath sour with decay. "It's an emergency. Just one call." Her fingers brushed my wrist, and I recoiled at how cold they were, like she'd been standing in a freezer. I handed over the phone just to get away from her. This time, though, I watched. She didn't dial, didn't even unlock the screen, just stood there, staring at it, her lips moving silently. After a full minute, she handed it back with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. All done. That night, I checked my call history. My blood turned to ice. Every single call she'd ever made was to my number. Dozens of them, all under 10 seconds, scattered over the past 3 months. But I'd never received a single one. I told myself it was a glitch, a weird pocket dial thing. Then I noticed the voicemails. There were 12, all left at exactly 3:33 a.m. I played the first one. Static, then a wet, rattling breath. "You're home," whispered a voice that wasn't quite Mrs. Langley's, something underneath it. "I can see you sleeping." The next one was worse. "Your dog barks too much. Let me in, and I'll make him quiet." The last one was just 3 seconds long. The sound of my own bedroom doorknob turning. I didn't sleep that night. Or the next. Yesterday, I saw the for sale sign go up in Mrs. Langley's yard. When I asked the realtor about her, he frowned. "Owner passed 6 months ago. We've been trying to sell the place ever since." I moved out this morning. But as I loaded the last box into my car, I felt it. the prickle of being watched. Mrs. Langley's curtains were parted just enough to see a single, milky eye staring back at me. And in my pocket, my phone buzzed. A new voicemail. I haven't listened to it yet, but I know exactly when it was left. 3:33 a.m. And I know, wherever I go next, the calls will keep coming. Because she still has my number, and she likes talking to me. I thought my neighbor was just a night owl, until I realized he wasn't looking at the stars. He was staring straight into my window, every night, at exactly 3 a.m. It started a week after Mr. Velis moved in next door. I never saw him during the day, just glimpses of his gaunt silhouette behind drawn curtains, or the flicker of his TV casting eerie blue shadows through the glass. But at night, that's when he came alive. The first time I noticed him, I'd been up late cramming for finals. My desk faced the backyard, and around 2:55 a.m., I caught movement through the blinds. I nudged them aside just enough to see Mr. Velis standing perfectly still in his yard, face tilted up toward the sky. Weird, I thought, but harmless. Maybe he was stargazing. Then it happened again the next night. And the next. Every time, like clockwork, 3 a.m. on the dot, he'd shuffle into the yard, barefoot in his threadbare bathrobe, and just stand there, motionless, unblinking. I told myself it was none of my business. But by the fifth night, curiosity got the better of me. I crept to my window, careful not to make noise, and peered out. That's when I realized his head wasn't tilted up anymore. It was level, staring directly at me. My breath hitched. The streetlight glinted off his eyes, glassy and wide, like a doll's. I ducked, heart hammering, but not before I saw his lips twitch. Not a smile, just movement, like he was testing them. I didn't sleep. The next morning, I convinced myself I'd imagined it. Maybe he just happened to glance my way. But that night, I set an alarm for 2:55 a.m., my hands clammy as I waited. When the time came, I didn't even need to look. I felt it. The weight of eyes. Slowly, I lifted my head. Mr. Velis was already there. Closer this time, just a few feet from my window. His robe hung open, revealing pale, sunken skin stretched too tight over his ribs. And his face, God, his face. That same hollow stare, but now his mouth hung slack, like his jaw had unhinged. I jerked the blinds shut. For an hour, I sat frozen listening. No footsteps, no rustling, just silence. Then, tap, tap, tap. 3 delicate knocks on the glass. I bolted to my parents' room, babbling about a prowler. Dad grabbed his bat and stormed outside. But of course, the yard was empty. Probably just a branch, he grumbled. But branches don't leave handprints. The next day, I saw them, 5 greasy smudges on the outside of my window, right at eye level. Too large to be mine. That's when I noticed something else. Mr. Velis's curtains were always closed during the day, but mine weren't. He could have been watching me for weeks. That night, I barricaded my door and slept with the lights on. At 2:58 a.m., my phone buzzed, a notification from my security camera. I opened the app. The backyard was empty. Then, at exactly 3 a.m., Mr. Velis stepped into frame. But he wasn't in his yard. He was in mine. And he wasn't looking at the sky. He was looking at the camera, like he knew I was watching. The video cut to static. A second later, my bedroom doorknob clicked. It's been 6 months since I moved out. My parents think I overreacted. The cops found nothing in Mr. Velis's house. No signs of breaking in, no evidence he'd ever touched my window. But last week, I got an email from the new tenant. Hey, did you ever notice anything weird about the neighbor? Sometimes at night, I swear I see. I didn't read the rest. Because I already know. At 3 a.m., he's still watching. And now, he has a new window to stand under.